Toronto folk singer is dead after she was attacked by a pair of coyotes.
What is the monkey doing? Tell me what the monkey...
He hit your face off!
We actually have a trainer in the water with one of our whales.
If I show weakness, if I retreat, I may be hurt, I may be killed.
Baby Azaria Chamberlain was taken by a dingo back in 1980.
Oh my God, you guys. We are back. That's right, 2025, feeling alive. Welcome back to Man-Eaters, everybody. The only true crime podcast on the entire fucking internet where all the killers are real animals. Whether it's biting, scratchings, maulings, or clawings, we're here to talk about it. I'm your host, James, aka Jimothy, aka Jambalaya, aka the most smelly with the most belly, aka Papa Plump, aka Little Stinky Boy. And that's enough AKAs. Welcome to the first episode of 2025. Did you miss me? I missed you. I was going to say for a second, I bet you didn't miss me, but some of you goddamn did because you sent me messages. I got a lot of messages in my break saying, "Oh, Jimmy, where are you? We miss the animal. We miss the carnage. We miss the blood. We miss the death." And you know what? Fair enough. I missed you too. I did not intend to take the entirety of January off, but oh boy golly, as I found out, my mental health certainly needed it. But I'm back. I'm recording this actually on January 31st, which is the last possible minute I could be recording it before I broke my little internal promise of you have to record one episode before the month is over. But we are back. We are black. No, we are back. And I thought, it would be a good idea to start this year off just by going back into the news and covering all the insane animal attacks and animal-human conflict that had occurred while we've been gone. I haven't recorded a new episode since just before Christmas. I think Boxing Day may have been the last day I actually recorded. But yeah, it has been quite a while. Do I still know how to do this? Is this thing on? Hello? Okay, that's recording, and it probably hurt your ears when I did that. As far as I know, everything is going as it's supposed to, but I'm sure if there is a mistake, we will discover it very soon. But yeah, before we get into it, just wanted to really quickly say thank you to the few of you who did reach out, and some of you were very nice. Some of you, it made me think maybe I've been laying on the self-pity a little bit too hard, because some of the messages were like very concerned for my state of being. No, I'm fine. I literally just wanted to take a little bit of a break. And I did. My fiance went to New York for like 3 weeks, so I had the place to myself for 3 weeks, and I just spent a lot of time, no, not masturbating. I spent a lot of time just sitting in a darkened room, listening to softcore jazz. No, I just had a lot of time just to relax and decompress. Obviously back at work now. A lot of stuff going on. I've got some theater stuff. I'm doing some fringe stuff, working on a live show maybe for this here podcast, but that's neither here nor there. Let's talk animals. Let's talk man-eaters. Let's do it. Today, we're just going to call it what it is. Today is one big old scratch of the day. Let's call it the scratch of the January. How about that? Play the theme song. Right, so our first story today comes from my backyard, and unlike every other time I've said that when I'm referring to Australia, this time I'm being quite literal because this actual story could very well be happening in my actual backyard as we speak. That's right. A few of you sent this to me over the break, but there has been a recent discovery in the in the spider world, in the arachnid world. The Newcastle funnel web spider is identified as bigger and deadlier than the other species. That's right. Finally, my hometown makes it into the news for something Pasha Bolka not related. Look it up yourself. Okay, so in short, researchers have confirmed that Sydney's funnel web spiders are made up of 3 distinct species. The largest and most venomous type is known as the Newcastle funnel web. Now, as many of my countrymen would would attest to as we grew up, we were taught that the Sydney funnel web is actually the most deadly spider in the world. I don't know if this is actually true, and I'm sure different countries with their own native species of spider all say that they're the most deadly, but I am fairly certain that the venom, the toxicity of the venom of the funnel web spider is, I think, the most deadly to humans. And so, growing up, the Sydney funnel web spider, as it's been known for years and years and years, they've realised now that it's actually made of a few different species, and the Newcastle funnel web, which is a new distinction. And of course, Newcastle is where I'm from, is its own separate species of funnel web spider. And I think I've told this story on air before. My grandfather, who passed away a couple of years ago, he used to tell us the story of before I was born, like many years before I was born, when my mum was little. He was working in the front garden of his house over in Birmingham Gardens, which is literally from where I am, maybe about 5 minutes away. So my whole family has stayed very, very put. But he was working in the garden when he was a lot younger. And he felt a little bit of a pain, but he kept going because men don't talk about pain back in the 60s or whenever this was. And he pulls his hand out of the dirt, and his hand is massively swollen. And it turns out he was bitten by a spider. And so he digs through the dirt because he knows at this point the best way to get treatment is to catch the spider. I actually don't buy that. I think he was going to get revenge on the spider. He was going to burn it or something, but he found the spider. They took it to the hospital. They treated him with anti-venom, and they did tell him, they said, this is the largest specimen of funnel web spider that we've ever seen in our lives. And they sent the jar with the spider to Sydney for them to examine, and I'm pretty sure it was a record breaker then. Turns out it wasn't a Sydney funnel web spider that he was bitten by, it was a Newcastle funnel web. So let me read you the story. Researchers have confirmed what they have suspected for the past 2 decades, that Australia's most famous and deadliest spider is actually made up of more than one species. The iconic funnel web spider is in fact 3 distinct species, and the biggest and most venomous of them all calls Newcastle home. 3 species are known as the true Sydney funnel web, found from the Central Coast throughout the Sydney Basin, the southern Sydney funnel web, most commonly known in the Blue Mountains, the south and west of Sydney, and are the largest one of the 3 in Newcastle. Scientists from the Leibniz Institute for the Analysis of Biodiversity and Change in Germany, the Australian Museum in Sydney, and Flinders University in Adelaide published their findings in the journal BMC Ecology and Evolution on Monday. To prove that there was a new species in town, the research team collected new specimens of funnel webs and focused on the spider's DNA while comparing new and old specimens dating back to the early 1900s. Now, the good news is that across all the different species, the antivenom is effective across all species. The director of the Department of Clinical Toxicology at the Calvary Mater Newcastle, which, by the way, is about 2 minutes from where I'm currently sitting recording this podcast, Professor Jeff Ibstitter, said it was well known that there were bigger funnel web spiders in Newcastle for the past 20 years. Quote, bites from the 2 new species have been treated with funnel web antivenom in the past. They just weren't called those species then, and it works absolutely fine. The professor said the findings was significant in understanding an important Australian spider, as well as from a medical point of view. Funnel web antivenom is very effective as long as it's given soon after the bite, in an hour or 2, he said. For the last 45 years, there hasn't been a death from a funnel web bite, he said. The curiosity surrounding the Newcastle funnel web spider peaked when one dubbed Big Boy was handed into the Australian Reptile Park for milking a few days ago. The Central Coast spider enthusiast Kane Christensen has been working as a milker that sounds gross, has been working as a milker at the time and brought its size to the attention of researchers. His role in the discovery was rewarded with its scientific name, Atrax christianseni. Atrax christianseni. That's pretty amazing, by the way. And I'm looking at a photo. It is huge. Wow. It is dramatically bigger than the other one. That's crazy. He says, I just helped them find the species and they rang me and said, would they be able to name it after me? That's one of the biggest honors you could ever get. It certainly is. There are some quite easy to distinguish morphological features in these ones, but just knowing that's not good enough. So I had to contact the museum and send some specimens there, and that's when all the analysis gets done and gets sent around. Last week, scientists announced a record-breaking Cine funnelweb spider had been handed into the Australian Reptile Park. It measured 9.2 centimetres long and was named after another Australian icon, Chris Hemsworth. Hemsworth is believed to be the largest Newcastle funnelweb of its kind ever recorded. Professor Ibsitter said that one thing to keep in mind was the bigger the spider, the bigger the bite. Quote, "There are two things about a spider being more dangerous. One is its size because it is likely to inject a larger amount of venom, but also the potency of the venom differs. What we don't know is, does the potency of the venom differ for these three new identified species? Previously, the venom to produce antivenom would have been taken from any of the three." We have another Australian story up in the news. A dingo has bitten 2 children on K'gari, also known as Fraser Island, in as many days. Visitors to Queensland's K'gari will see more rangers patrolling popular spots after 2 children were bitten by dingoes in the lead up to the Australia Day long weekend. It comes after 2 other high-risk tourist interactions with dingoes in just over a week. Rangers said a 2-year-old child was bitten on the leg by a dingo in the car park near Lake Mackenzie, also known as Burunga, on Sunday, a swimming spot that attracts many tourists to the centre of K'gari. Queensland Parks and Wildlife Services said the child was given first aid by on-site rangers. On Thursday, rangers reported a dingo charged at 2 children aged 4 and 12 who were swimming in the shallow waters of Lake Mackenzie. The tagged dingo, which was already being monitored by rangers, bit the 4-year-old on their left shoulder and caused superficial lacerations. Rangers said that while the child's mother rushed to pick them up, the father yelled and chased the dingo away, but it did not deter the animal from continuing to loiter around the family. Along with his wife and daughter, tourist Justin Moon was exploring K'gari with a large group on a tour bus when he learned about the recent attacks. Quote, "We were on the tour bus and we could see dingoes passing," he said. "We were a bit worried initially, but I didn't feel too much danger, maybe because we were on a bus and could keep a safe distance." Wide Bay local Andrew Davey said the recent spate of attacks would not deter him from visiting with his grandchildren. Quote, "I've seen plenty of them, but we don't try to attract them and we don't try to be friendly with them. I think people sometimes aren't careful enough when it comes to wild animals." On Saturday, rangers were also told about a woman who was attacked at Lake Mackenzie a week beforehand on January 18 while trying to protect her belongings. A woman was bitten on the leg by a dingo after trying to stop the animal from taking her bag, resulting in a superficial injury, a QPWS spokesperson said. On the same day, a dingo lunged at a child walking with her family along a stretch of beach on the western side of the island. While the 3-year-old girl's parents were able to lift her to safety, spectators from a nearby boat rushed to their aid and attempted to scare off the dingo with a kayak paddle. In response to the recent attacks, the Wildlife Service said it had increased patrols and safety signage, especially around Lake Mackenzie. Quote, "We urge people to remain vigilant, particularly parents with young children. Our message is simple: be dingo safe. Rangers are investigating the animals responsible for the attack. People are urged to always travel in groups, to never feed dingoes, and to stay in fenced areas of the island when visiting with children." We have noticed an increase in dingo-human contact on K'gari over the years as we've been doing this podcast, and I think it is because the tourism. Well, there's a few factors. Tourism has gone off on that island, and I totally understand why. It's beautiful. I'd love to go to K'gari one day, and I'd actually wouldn't mind seeing the dingoes, but they are quite dangerous animals. They've bitten quite a few people, and of course we know the story about Azaria Chamberlain. The dingo ate my baby. That lady. It took the baby. They found the baby's clothes in a dingo hole, so that can happen. People also underestimate what these animals are because they look like dogs. They look like domesticated dogs, and in some instances they will act like that too. I think because they've become so habituated to human contact and have been fed food and made to not fear people, that they will act just like dogs around people, but they're not really dogs. Like they're a separate, distinct species, and they can be quite dangerous. So, and there is the final, factor here, which I think is more spiritual than anything else. And we've talked about this a lot. People, especially Australians, really identify with animals like dingoes and kangaroos and emus because they have huge significance and importance to us culturally as Australians. And I think that a mirror to that is the way that people act in places like Yellowstone National Park. When people see bison or buffalo, there's like a spiritual connection to these animals, and people think they have a spiritual connection to these animals, and it just blinds them a little bit to the potential danger. And they think that, well, of course that dingo or that kangaroo or that emu, it's not going to attack me. I'm an Australian. I have a spiritual connection to this. No, they don't feel that. they absolutely will attack you. So it's good that these people have only received superficial wounds, and it is good that the dingoes haven't had to be killed. But we do need to remain vigilant and to keep our distance away from these animals because, obviously the worst thing that can happen in an animal attack is the loss of a human life. But the thing that we don't think about a lot of times is even when a human life isn't lost, even when a human isn't necessarily particularly injured, oftentimes the animal is the one that gets hunted down, and they're the loss of life. And dingoes are a protected species. They should be a protected species too because they are quite important in maintaining various ecological systems. There's a John Williams song called Warrigal, which is Indigenous Australian for dingo. I just don't know which particular Indigenous language it's from. But yeah, Warrigal means dingo. Basically the song is like, you get rid of all the dingoes, then all the kangaroos are going to go wild and, eat all the grass and erode it. And the rats are going to come in and the rats are going to eat all the grass and erode it. So yeah, all animals have a particularly important place in ecological systems, but the dingo in Australia certainly does too. The dingo is the largest, and correct me if I'm wrong, the dingo is the largest terrestrial predator in Australia. There's nothing else like it in Australia, and we need to protect those dingoes. So if you are in K'gari or anywhere else where dingoes do live, make sure that you keep your distance and do not for a second believe that they won't bite you because of some feigned spiritual connection. They absolutely will because they're animals, and animals don't have souls. That is the official position of this podcast. It's not. Animals certainly do have souls. I do not. The next story is quite an interesting one. A Colorado agency investigation has named an animal attack as the possible culprit in a death in Castilla County. So let's read about that. Multiple agencies are investigating after one person was found dead in what they believe was an animal attack. The Castilla County Sheriff's Office, Colorado Bureau of Investigation, and Colorado Parks and Wildlife said the person was attacked on the Sangre de Cristo ranches. Deputies and CBI officials hiked the immediate area but were unable to locate or identify the animal. Authorities said they're unable to verify what type of animal might have been responsible for the attack until further analysis is complete. The sheriff's office said they are waiting on results from the El Paso County coroner to determine the cause of death. Deputies urged anyone living in or visiting the area to be vigilant and to stay aware of their surroundings. This is obviously a developing story and hopefully one that we can give you an update on next week or whenever we record the next episode. But I did have a little look at the area that this death had occurred in. It's located quite close to the Great Sands National Park in Colorado. And they have a great website and they have all the dangers associated with visiting that area, including the predators, the local wildlife that can cause death to humans. And because it's so close to where these deaths happen, it is likely that these animals could be in the running to be the culprit. So I want to talk about a couple of those. The two animals that I think are most likely to be involved in this death would be a mountain lion or a black bear. They're kind of the two large attacking animals. Now, of course, there's other animals like sort of not native to the area that could be responsible for this, namely dog or dogs potentially as well. But, we won't know. But yeah, mountain lions and black bears, I think, are going to be the most likely ones. The GRSA, the Great Dunes National Park website, says that mountain lions are very secretive and very rarely observed. Their presence here is obviously from their tracks that are commonly seen in the foothills and the edges of the dunes along Mendano Creek. They are primarily nocturnal in the warmer months. There have been no reported mountain lion attacks in Great Sand Dunes, but it's wise to stay alert when walking in their habitat. Always hike together. Children should not run ahead. A hiking stick is also useful as a lion defense. The other animal, of course, that could be a likely culprit for this death is a black bear. And black bears do live in the foothills and the mountains above the dunes, but they rarely visit the dunes themselves. Of course, they could be in the area where this death has occurred. Despite their names, black bears can be black, brown, cinnamon, or even blonde in coloration. They are generally secretive and avoid humans. The most common safety problem is when campers or picnickers leave food out, inviting a bear into their sight. Never leave scented items or coolers unattended. This may result in your cooler being confiscated and a ticket resulting in a monetary fine. We don't call them coolers in Australia. Guess what we call them? We call it an esky. An esky. And you might be asking, why do we call it an esky? A cooler makes a lot of sense. It keeps the food cool. Why is it called an esky? And my answer to that is, fuck you, man. I don't know. Anyway, keeping food out could also endanger you or other campers by having a hungry bear in your sight when you return. Use bear lockers provided in Pinion Flats campground and or store scented items in a vehicle with the windows rolled up. I really love that I don't live in a country where bear attacks is a possible problem. Only dingo bites. So yeah, interesting. The death of one person may have been caused by an animal attack in Costilla County in Colorado, but we are going to hopefully follow that up for you next week when the El Paso County coroner comes back. As we've talked about previously on other episodes, there is sometimes quite a backlog of coroners' deaths to get through, so we might not find out within the next week, but as soon as I know, you will also know. We have a pretty sad story coming up next. Also, possibly a candidate for our dickhead of the day. A man has been charged for beating neighbor's loose dog in an attack. The animal was euthanized due to its injuries. Now, the reason I say possible is I don't know the scenario here. Was the man being attacked by the dog? Did he beat the dog into submission because he was being attacked? Or did he just go around attacking loose dogs? We're going to find out very, very soon. This happened yesterday. Well, this reporting happened yesterday. This is from Dauphin County in PA. That's Pennsylvania, I believe. Harrisburg, that's definitely Pennsylvania. A Harrisburg man has been charged after police say he beat his neighbor's dog to the point where she had to be euthanized. Erskine Clemens, 58 years old, is facing felony aggravated cruelty to animals after a fight between his dog and a neighbor's dog broke out. Harrisburg police were initially dispatched to 2725 Real Street on reports of two animals attacking each other. Upon arrival, officers spoke with a man who lives on Real Street, Terrence Luster, who said that who said that after he let his dog outside, his neighbor Erskine also let out his dog. Luster told police that his pit bull, Roxy, charged at Clemens and attacked his dog, leading to Clemens allegedly using, quote, a blunt object to hit Roxy. Charging documents state that Luster returned home with Roxy, who appeared to be seizing with blood and saliva leaking from her mouth. Officials say that the dog also appeared to be lying down and defecating. Officers on scene then transported both Luster and his dog to a veterinary emergency center. Investigators later spoke with Clemens, who stated that Luster had allowed Roxy to roam the neighborhood without a leash for several days. Clemens told police that the dog had chased his wife, his grandchildren, and other neighborhood kids. During the attack between the two dogs, Clemens said that he went to his shed and got a, quote, wooden handle that he used to hit Roxy and separate the animals. Clemens stated his dog was bleeding a lot. Police say that Clemens admitted to beating the dog with the handle, causing the following injuries that led Roxy to being euthanized. Roxy suffered head trauma, shock, cervical spinal fractures, a spinal cord trauma, an abdominal bleeding, and a ruptured bladder. Clemens awaits a preliminary hearing set for the 12th of February. This is obviously a really complicated situation because from reading this, it's very factual here, and it doesn't seem to have a lot of what I would maybe call bias. It does sound like that dog attacked his dog, and he used a wooden handle to beat the dog off. I'm just a little bit confused why he was charged so quickly. This kind of makes it sound like it was self-defense. I don't know. I'm not really willing to sort of talk shit about this person right now because it does sound like Roxy, which is the dog, charged at Clemens and attacked his dog, leading Clemens to allegedly use a blunt object to hit Roxy. I mean, I'm going to be honest. If I'm walking my dog and an unleashed dog attacks my dog, was Clemens's dog unleashed as well? Investigators spoke to Clemens, who stated that Luster had allowed Roxy to roam without a leash. Clemens told the police the dog had chased his wife, his grandchildren, and other neighborhood kids. I'm kind of not on the side of the victim here, unfortunately. It sounds like this person has had a random dog come up and attack his dog, and he's known the dog in the past because it's chased his grandchildren and his wife around, and he's attacked it with a wooden handle. Maybe his attack was a bit too excessive, and it's obviously very sad that this has happened, but I'm a little bit shocked, actually, that this charge has happened this way, to be completely honest. This is going to be another one I'm going to have to put a pin in and follow up on because I would be very interested to see what happens here. I want to know what happens at the preliminary hearing on February 12th. So maybe I'll put that date in my diary and check back in to see what happens. And yes, I will let you know. I'm going to follow this story. Okay. It's about time we talked about a hippo on this show. I mean, we have in the past, but not for quite a while. A video on TikTok shows the moment when a hippo lashed out. In the clip, tourists were enjoying a close-up view of the hippo, which lost its temper. The video of the hippo garnered more than 100,000 likes. There were thousands of different comments, divided comments, from people who found the video amusing, while others were horrified. In a TikTok by @Ellie Francis Afaris, whatever. Oh, no. No, it's called Ellie Africa Safaris. Okay, that makes sense. In a video by Ellie Africa Safaris, a hippo began running after a safari vehicle. The large animal chased the tourists and managed to bite the car for a moment. The founder of Turgway Hippo Trust Save the Hippos, Karen Papillo, who has studied hippos for 30 years in Zimbabwe's Turgway River, explained the possible reason behind the hippo's aggression in the clip. The hippo that chased the vehicle had either just had a fight with another hippo, or a vehicle had earlier frightened him, or it was a young female and her calf was nearby and she was defending her area from the vehicle. Karen explained to Briefly News that most wild animal attacks occur because people are over-familiar with being too close, loud, and aggressive when the animal doesn't want any disturbance. The hippo enthusiast with 3 decades worth of knowledge shared insight into how to know when a hippo is feeling threatened. She said, "A hippo opens its mouth when afraid to say, 'Look at my big mouth and my teeth,' or in play pushing games with other hippos. They also yawn like we do. To show anger if threatened, then his eyes will be tight and angry looking. He will flick his ears a lot and come forward at you in a mock charge." In a show of dedication to hippos, Karen has been pictured next to a hippo, a privilege she has earned through decades of hard work. She was photographed with a young male hippo named Steve, who was kicked out of his family due to the birth of a male calf, a common practice amongst hippos. Karen reflected with Briefly News. To have a bond with a wild animal is amazing, but it can take a long time to build up their trust with you, and it is not something that happens just like that. You also need to be able to read their behavior towards you, like watching people and seeing how they react to you. People found the video fascinating as many noted it was a close call. One person said they found the hippo to be cut, but a BBC Wildlife highlights that hippos kill an average of 500 people per year due to their large size and teeth. Hippos are considered the most dangerous land animals, beating lions, and on average killed between 70 to 250 per year. Karen highlighted to Briefly News that hippos are not predatory, but they will defend themselves. Quote, they are herbivores, so they don't want to hurt a human, but because they are very fast, faster than us on land, and have a lot larger teeth, if you upset a hippo by approaching it too closely or by being the attacker and he cannot flee, it will hurt you. You must allow all wild animals their space. Like anyone who's come face to face with a hippo, I think that these people are very lucky to have survived and got out of that scratch-free. Hippos are incredibly dangerous animals, and they scare the living tits off my ass. We have another large story from We have another story about another large animal coming out of Kruger National Park. This one's a bit of a tragedy. A grandfather has been trampled to death while shielding his grandchild from a charging elephant. A 59-year-old grandfather has been trampled to death by an elephant near the Marlane Gate in the Kruger National Park. Elephant attacks are not uncommon in South Africa. A grandfather's bid to save his grandson's life ended in tragedy within the vicinity of Kruger National Park when he was trampled to death by an elephant on Saturday. According to Lieutenant Colonel Jabu Ndabane of the South African Police Service in Mailane, a 59-year-old man who has been identified as Sheikh Adam Sabir Ahmed was killed near the park's Marlane Gate. Detailing the incident, Undabane said Ahmed's grandchildren, aged 5 and 11, were taking pictures and videos of an elephant that was inside the park not far from the gate when suddenly the elephant came charging towards them. While the children and grandfather were fleeing, the 11-year-old boy fell down, which is when the elephant reportedly attacked the boy's legs with its trunk as he lay on the ground. It was during this time when the grandfather went to assist that the elephant turned on him and trampled him before it left him and returned to the Kruger National Park premises. Ahmed succumbed to his injuries at the scene before police and emergency service personnel arrived. The 11-year-old boy survived. It says 11-year-old boy, but it's actually 11-year-old boy. Get it right. Survived the attack, sustaining injuries to his leg, while the 5-year-old sister was reportedly unharmed during the incident. Ahmed will be laid to rest on Sunday as per family religion. When asked what will happen to the elephant responsible for the attack, a Kruger National Park manager of communications and marketing told the Daily Maverick that that Sandpark's elephant expert believes that the individual elephant can be identified, and if it continues to show signs of aggression, that it will have to be put down. South African National Park's communication official JP Lawau implored witnesses not to share any pictures or videos of the incident or the victims owing to the sensitivity of the matter. Saturday's incident is not the first time tourists or poachers have been attacked by elephants in South Africa. In July of 2024, a Spanish man was killed while getting out of his vehicle to take photos of a breeding herd with 3 calves in the national park in the northwest. Agitated by his presence, the matriarch charged and trampled him to death. Furthermore, in 2019, a suspected rhino poacher was trampled to death by an elephant and his body was devoured by lions in the Kruger National Park. The only thing that remained of the poacher when rangers found him was his skull. According to the World Wildlife Fund, elephant attacks are becoming more frequent as human settlements and development continue to encroach on wildlife habitats across Africa. The International Fund for Animal Welfare said this is also occurring in and around the Kruger National Park, where large animals, including buffalo, lions, and hippos, as well as crocodiles, are increasingly straying into residential areas, escalating human-wildlife conflict in the region. Another story that popped up on my TikTok the other day. My fiance actually saved this one and showed me a pretty incredible video. A giant fish attacks a mermaid at an aquarium. The sturgeon bites the performer's mermaid head in a tank in China's Xishuangbanna primitive forest. We often see viral videos of animals or sea creatures attacking people. Sometimes these incidents are not terrifying, but can be scary. A similar incident was captured in a viral video that shows a massive fish, believed to be a sturgeon, attacking a woman dressed as a mermaid in a tank. You can watch the viral video below. You can't because this is an audio medium, but you'll have to rely on my description. Basically, what happened was in some aquariums, I don't know why they do this, they have actors or divers dress up as mermaids, which seems very dangerous because they have these big, like, mermaid tails. It's kind of scary. This performer was rising out of the water. She was a 20-year-old, well, let me read this. She was a 22-year-old Russian, and she was entertaining a crowd from inside the tank when the fish suddenly approached her from behind and attacked her head. It left spectators in shock who began yelling in terror. It almost seems as if her entire head was in its mouth. The fish even swallowed her goggles and nose clip. Thankfully, Marsha, who was the performer, managed to fight it off and escape. So yeah, basically she's swimming up for air. I'll watch the video now, actually. And it bites her head. She really quickly gets out of it. Yeah, she did have goggles on. She had goggles on. Ooh. Yeah, and she rises to the surface and she's fine. People noted that sturgeons don't have teeth, so she wasn't really in any danger of being lacerated or bitten like that, but it was obviously quite a shock, and yeah, not what you want to happen to you while you're at work. I also just don't know why we let people do this. Like, isn't the aquarium a beautiful, magic enough place that we don't need to hire 22-year-old Russian women to pretend to be mermaids? I don't know. Then again, my favorite thing when I went to the Cairns Aquarium was watching a diver go into one of the tanks to, I think, clean something up and have to repeatedly push another annoying fish away that kept going in to annoy him. So maybe we do need that. Maybe we do need to have people go into the tanks and fight fish. That is the official belief of this podcast. And that's it, guys. 5 or 6 different stories there from the break that we might have missed. We're going to take a short break now. We're going to hear some messages, and you're going to listen to a bit of music, and we'll be back for the rest of our episode. So, as always, go and do a wee. And we're back. I had a listener send this link to me saying, give it a crack, chappy. And you know what? I am going to give it a crack, mate. Let's see how I do. This quiz is called the Can You Identify the Animal from Their Close-Up quiz. This quiz does rely on a little bit of visual, so if you do want to play along, you can go to bbcearth.com/quiz/guess that animal. Basically, I'm going to get some very zoomed in body parts photos. I hope I get a cock, and I'm going to try to identify what animal they are. So I will describe to you each photo. So here we go. Let's see if I can get all of them right. This one's pretty easy. I'm clearly looking at the elbow, or the elbow? It looks like a big wrinkly weenus. I'm looking at what looks like a gray-skinned animal, and I'm looking kind of like at its armpit, I would say. The options are African elephant, rhinoceros, hippopotamus. Now, those 3 all are pretty good picks. Hippopotamus I'm going to rule out because it's kind of the wrong color. This is definitely more of a gray than a brown, which I would associate hippos with. Hippos sometimes have that kind of like purpley coloring as well. This does not have that. I'm going to say an elephant. A rhinoceros' leg is a lot shorter than this. This leg is quite long. So I'm going to go African elephant. And is it going to tell me if I'm correct or not? It's not. Yeah, it is. Good. Correct. Okay. Continue. Okay. So we're now looking at the pug marks or the pugs of a cat. It is hard to tell though. Basically, I'm looking at the paw of an animal. I can see some of its fur. It's like a light yellow/light orange color, and there are spots covering it as well. The 3 options they're giving me is leopard, cheetah, and jaguar. Now I'm going to cross out jaguar because of the coloring of the animal. A jaguar is far more orange. Jaguars are probably one of the more vibrant of the big cats, I would say. They're akin to like tigers, but the coloring is not correct here. There's also probably something I could do with the actual shape of the pug marks, but I don't know enough about them to make a guess right now. So I'm going to have to choose between leopard and cheetah. I'm looking at the background of the photo, and it's like an orange brown dirt background. It looks very much like a savanna. My gut is saying cheetah. But I could be wrong. This is going to be 100% a guess. I'm going to go cheetah, but it could very well be a leopard. It is incorrect. It was a leopard. Unfortunately, it was a leopard. Leopards are the super soldiers of the big cats. They're strong, can swim, can climb trees, dragging their prey out of reach of the predators, are exceptionally good at hiding, and can leap 3 meters into the air and 6 meters horizontally. I don't know how I would have possibly been able to guess the difference there. Okay. This one, I don't even know what I'm looking at. What it kind of looks like is like a beetle, like a scarab beetle's shell with some hairs sticking out of it. The options are a pipistrelle, I don't know what that is, a brown long-eared bat, or an Ozark big-eared bat. So I'm going to Google what a pipistrelle is, because I actually don't even know what that is. Pipistrelle. I like this show because I learn things. Pipistrelles are a genus of small bats. Okay, so all three of these are small bats. I don't know how I'm ever going to guess. These look like they're big ears. I'm going to guess Ozark big-eared bat because I also like the show Ozark. Let's guess. Oops, that's not right. Fuck you, man. It is a brown long-eared bat. The brown long-eared bat has huge ears which tend to curl or tuck away when sleeping. How was I supposed to know that? I've never seen this thing before in my life. Okay, these are getting hard. I thought this would be easy. I think I'm going to get this one right. It's a close-up of the tip of a beak of some kind of bird. Now, the top part of the beak has a little bit of a hook. The options are a ruddy duck, a shoebill, or a Brent goose. Now, the Brent goose and the ruddy duck, I would imagine that their bills would be more flat, like platypus bill shaped, if that makes sense. The shoebill is what I'm thinking. And I know quite all these birds quite well, what they look like, because I play Wingspan a lot with my partner. And yeah, the shoebill is one of my favorite. But I also do like the ruddy duck because it sounds like it's calling it a shit duck. That's a ruddy duck. I'm going to guess shoebill, one of those scary dinosaur-looking birds. Come on. Correct. It is a shoebill. If you've never seen what a shoebill looks like, make sure you look it up today because they are weird-looking birds. I do like them, though. There is some debate as to whether the shoebill is a stork, a heron, or a pelican. One of the most unpleasant pieces of identifying evidence is that they cool themselves off by defecating on their own legs, like storks do. I did not know that. That is an unpleasant piece of trivia there. Fantastic. All right, let's continue. This one's quite easy. I'm looking at the face, a close-up of the face of a turtle or tortoise or terrapin. Again, I'm not really sure what a terrapin is. I'm going to Google it. I'm guessing it's some kind of turtle. Yeah, it is. It's not a terrapin. This looks like a sea turtle, and I'm gonna guess it's a sea turtle as well because the background is all blue, like it's under the water. Let's go sea turtle. It looks like Crush from Finding Nemo. Yeah, dude, you said turtle or rock. That's right. Adult sea turtles do not retract into their shells like tortoises do. This makes them more agile when swimming, but can make them vulnerable when nesting on land, bro. That was my Crush from Finding Nemo impression. Let's move on. Okay. We're looking at a fish here. It is a red and white stripy fish. It's a similar pattern to a tiger or a zebra, which is not really helpful because two of the options here is tigerfish or zebrafish. The other option is a lionfish. And I actually think I'm going to go lionfish because I can see at the top of the frame some stalks coming out, like some spines coming out of the back of it. And I know that lionfish have those. Lionfish are native to Australia, but they're invasive species in a lot of other places. I get a lot of videos on my TikTok of people going out and killing them. And I always feel a little bit bad, but then you remember they're not supposed to be there. So it is a lionfish. Correct. Nice work. Lionfish use their outstretched pectoral fins to corner their prey against reefs or boulders. They then swallow them whole, crammed into a stomach that can expand 30 times its normal size. They don't mention that the lionfish are also one of the most venomous fish in the ocean and can be particularly dangerous to humans. When someone steps on one of those spines, it can inject you with a very potent toxin. Okay. This just looks like a garden hose. Like a close-up of a garden hose on the floor. The three options are a yellow-treed python, a gold ring cat snake, or a yellow-bellied sea snake. I'll describe the colors to you. The top half of the snake is a very deep black, and the bottom part is a beautiful, very bright yellow or gold. The background looks like it's a rock, and the rock looks kind of wet. And the snake's scales also, from this image, look wet or moist as well, which is why I'm leaning towards the yellow-bellied sea snake. The yellow tree python, I think, is completely yellow, so that wouldn't be it. The gold ring cat snake, I've never seen. I'm just getting a good feeling as the yellow-bellied sea snake. And I'm correct. Okay, it was a rock and it was wet. There you go. Despite living in the water, sea snakes can become dehydrated. Some species will come inland to find water, while others rely on rainwater that is settled on the surface of the ocean. That is very cool. I didn't know they could do that. I didn't think about that, but obviously the different salinity of those two types of water, yeah, the rainwater would settle on the top of the ocean. That's very cool. All right. I actually don't know how many of these there are, by the way, but we're going to keep going until we get bored. I'm looking at the nose now of a mammal. The mammal is white with some kind of brown to dark grey banding around it. The background is some green grass. The options are a skunk, a badger, or a panda. I'm fairly confident it's not a panda. The nose is too long. It doesn't look like it has the face shape of a panda. It leads me to think it's a skunk or a badger. Based on the color, I think it's a badger, not a skunk. The skunk would be more black and white. This is more white with like a little bit of brown on it. So I'm going to say badger. The other, if it said possum or opossum, I might have said that too, but the shape of the snout is wrong. I'm 99% confident in saying this is a badger. And I'm correct. That's right. Badgers are very house proud. So much so that they not only designate areas of the territory to use as latrines, they refuse to eat in their sets. They can also sleep on clean grass and leaves. They change regularly to prevent fleas and lice. That's very cool. That's very cool, Bateman. All right. This one is the tail of a whale. That's very clear. It's coming out of a grey ocean or lake. Definitely ocean, I'd say. There's some mountains in the background and a grey sky. The options are blue whale, dolphin, or sperm whale. Oh, interesting. Okay, well, maybe it's not. Maybe it is. Okay, maybe it's not a whale. Maybe it is a dolphin. The blue whale is more blue. And just from the scale of the photo, I would just expect it to be a lot larger. I also feel like their tail, like this tail is quite bulky, and then it just turns into a tail. Whereas blue whales, I believe it tapers in a little bit more thinner, and then you've got the tail. Sperm whale, I think it's not a photo of a sperm whale because sperm whales don't rarely breach like this. Like, it's rare to get a photo of a sperm whale. I could be completely wrong about that, but they live really deep. It's hard to get a photo of them. So I'm going to say dolphin, although my first reaction was that was definitely a whale. This one, I feel like I could be wrong. Oh, it is a blue whale. Damn. I guess the perspective of it was throwing me off a little bit. It is a blue whale. Blue whales feed by gulping down huge amounts of krill-filled water into their pleated throats, then filtering it back out through the fringe plates of thin overlapping material called baleen. They swallow what's left over. That's cool. Damn, all right. Really cool. This one is very hard to... Oh, no, it's not very hard. I can tell what this is. It's a mammal of some kind with a grayish-brown fur, and what looks like a pile of shit is actually its long feet, meaning that it is one of those jumping animals. The options it's given me is a hare, a red kangaroo, or a wallaby. I feel... It's not a red kangaroo, because red kangaroos are not that color. They're red. Well, they're not red, they're orange. But this would be a grey kangaroo. If anything, this looks very much like a wallaby. I saw a bunch of wallabies while I was camping last time. This looks identical to those. I could be wrong. It could be a hare. What's throwing me off about the hare is that it's just the body position. So I'm going to say it's a wallaby. I don't think it's a hare. Correct. Some wallaby species, such as the Tamara wallaby, have evolved to survive in areas with no fresh water by living on plant juices and, in extreme cases, processing seawater. That is fucking awesome. Dude, Australian animals are so cool. That was it. Okay, we did pretty well there. I think we only got like 1 or 2 of those wrong. Brilliant. Okay, love it. Let's finish this episode off with a nice little grid. That's right, my favorite little game, and have not played this since I've been off the pod. Sometimes I would just sit in my room drunk and spin the wheel and make up grids. Haven't done it for a while. This is the first grid for me in a long time. Very excited for it. We did beat the last grid on the last episode of last year, so we're going to do a new one. I will post this grid on our Instagram so you can see what I'm looking at, but we have a new grid. We have 9 slots. We need to get 9 animals that fill it up. We get 3 skips. I'm going to go through those categories now, and we're going to spin that wheel. Oh yeah. So our first row, we need a nocturnal animal. We need an animal that displays sexual dimorphism, and if you're not sure what that means, it basically means that males and females of a species look different. A really good example is humans. Ladies have boobies, boys have wee-wees. That is a very, I don't want to get into sexual politics. That was a very, I'm glazing over a lot here. I'm just saying, boys have a pee-pee, girl have vagina. Sometimes boy have vagina, sometimes girl have a pee-pee, but right now, as an animal, you know what I'm saying. Okay. All right. An animal that doesn't display sexual dimorphism, for example, would be like a domesticated Labrador, because boys and girls look the same. Okay. The last category in that top row is an animal that's on the podcast, an animal we've talked about. I kind of just mention it in passing. It has to be something we've talked about on a story that I can specifically mention in the episode. The next row down, we have an animal that's name starts with the letter S. We have a man-eating animal. That's an animal that can kill and eat humans. And we have an animal that is native to South America. Finally, on the final row, we have an invertebrate animal. We have an animal that has spots, and we have an animal that gives live birth. We get 3 skips. You guys know the drill. I'm spinning that wheel right now, and the first animal that is going to come up is going to be the flamingo. Now, I know flamingos are native to areas in North America, like Florida, but do flamingos live in South America as well? I'm going to have to give that a little Google, unfortunately. Flamingos are one of my favorite animals, actually. I've never seen a flamingo, but I've always wanted to. They're a really cool animal, and I've heard that they only get, their color from shrimp, apparently, that they eat. So apparently there are populations of flamingos in Chile and Peru, which means South America, which means we're going to take flamingo for South America. Very good. Off to a fantastic start, because I was a little bit troubled by that one. The next animal is going to be a toad. I believe toads have sexual dimorphism, but I'm going to say that the toads have spots. Definitely some toads have spots. I can definitely picture that. The next animal will be a grey wolf. We have certainly talked about grey wolves on the pod before. Do they display sexual dimorphism? Kinda, not really. I mean, I guess the males are a little bit bigger. They are nocturnal though. But I'm going to say man-eater. That's a good one. We've never used the wolf for a man-eater, and we should do that. So there we go. Man-eater. Perfect. 3 down, 6 to go. The next animal is going to be a tarantula. Now, I believe a tarantula is an invertebrate. They don't have spines. They have exoskeletons. So that is going to be our invertebrate. We need an animal with a letter S. That is going to be a little bit scary. We have the spider. Perfectly. All right. Let's do spider. Unfortunately, I could have taken it for sexual dimorphism too, because like redback spiders, for example, they definitely have differences between the sexes, but S, let's do it. We got 4 down. We got 5 down. We need 4 to go. The next animal is going to be the rhinoceros. We've talked about them on the pod, but we haven't had a specific episode about them, so it doesn't count. They do have sexual dimorphism because they do have different sizes. They're not nocturnal, but they do give live birth, so let's go there. Okay. I feel like a lot of animals have sexual dimorphism. A goat, that is a good one for sexual dimorphism because you can tell the difference between a male and a female goat quite easily. Alright, the goat. The goat is the goat. 2 more. We need a nocturnal animal and an animal we've had on the podcast. The walrus. I actually do not think we've talked about the walrus on this show ever. And they are not nocturnal, so that is going to be our first skip. It's okay. We've still got 2 more skippies. It's all right. Relax. We have, the next animal is going to be a snake. We have definitely talked about snakes on the podcast before. In the episode I'm going to throw up as an example would be Gypsy the Python, which was like the 3rd or 4th episode we ever did. All right. So, and we talked about a bunch of different snakes there, not just pythons. So, we need a nocturnal animal. Panda. I do not believe pandas are nocturnal. I mean, I see them at zoos playing around all the time in the daytime, falling off shit. You know, they're bunch of douchebags. I will Google it though because I don't want to get it wrong. Pandas nocturnal ? That's not how you spell nocturnal. It's really hard to spell while you're talking. Red panda appears to be red pandas are, but what about normal pandas? That's interesting. Do giant pandas sleep throughout the day or night? Of course not. Giant panda is one of the few animals that stays active both day and night. I don't know. Are pandas... It's not really being very forthcoming. Are giant panda nocturnal? Or diurnal? Okay, it's going to say no, it's not nocturnal. All right, which means we have one more skip to get a nocturnal animal. Give me an owl. Give me a classic, something like that, something I don't have to Google. Horse is not nocturnal, we know that, so that's going to be our 3rd and final skip. That means the next animal will be a hit or a miss, and we will pass or fail based on that animal. Okay, last roll. Oh, the bat. I think the bat is one of the most classic nocturnal animals ever, which means we have passed this grid on the first freaking week, boys and girls, my non-binary pals. That is going to do it for our grid. That is going to do it for our episode. Thank you so much to everyone who has been very kind to me in the break. I could not be happier to be back. I'll be back next week with an episode all about Siegfried and Roy. Bunch of Germans got eaten by a tiger or a lion or something. I don't know. I've got to look into the story a little bit more. This is why we didn't do it this week. I need time. And you might say, Jimmy, you had like 2 months to do this. I've been busy, okay? I've been making cakes. I've been baking bread. I've been eating canned fish a lot. That is going to be it. Thank you all so much. There's a bunch of stuff you can do, all the social media stuff. There's an Instagram. There's a Facebook. There's a website. They're all in the description below. Do your thing. There's a Patreon. Please head over to the Patreon if you feel like chipping in. We've got a lot of free members over there. A lot of freeloaders, but that's okay. But feel free to sign up to actually help me survive because that helps me do a lot of things. Actually, most things are pretty contingent on me surviving. So yeah, hit up that Patreon, boys. All right, have a fantastic week. I love your butts. I love everything about you except for Glenn's skinny little weenus. I'll see you next time. Have a good one. And as always, stay safe out there because as we've learned, it's a jungle out there.
Bye.